My name is Nia Thomas, and what I'm about to tell you might shake your understanding of life and what lies beyond it. April 12th, 2024 started like any other Friday. The sky was grey, the air thick, and I was already late for morning prayer at St. Michael's. I almost didn't go. I was drained, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Life had been pushing hard from all directions: work, family, faith. All of it felt like weight pressing down on my chest. But something, I still can't explain what, urged me to go. Not a voice, not a thought, just a pull, and I followed it. That decision changed everything. Just minutes after walking into that little church, something happened. I collapsed. No pulse, no breath, clinically dead. For 7 minutes I crossed into a reality that made this world feel like a shadow. In that space beyond life, I came face to face with Jesus. Yes, him. And what he showed me wasn't soft light or choirs of angels. It was truth. Raw, powerful truth about who we are, especially those of us born into black skin. The spiritual fire we carry, the reason our prayers hit differently, why our faith survives storms. I returned with a new heart, not just beating again, but burning. What I saw, what I felt, what I learned, it's not just for me. The world needs to hear it. So if you're searching for purpose, for answers, or just for peace, stay with me. Because this story isn't over. It's only just begun. I walked into the church 5 minutes late, hoping no one would notice. The place was already alive with quiet murmurs and bowed heads. I slipped into my usual spot near the back, hoping to blend into the stillness. Pastor Davis was already deep in prayer, his voice calm and commanding, asking God to protect us, to guide us, to give us strength. I tried to focus, to settle my mind, but the moment I closed my eyes, something hit me, hard. A crushing force clamped down on my chest. My heart pounded like a drum in my ears. I couldn't breathe. I grabbed at my shirt, panic setting in, and then pain. Blinding, burning pain down my left arm. I remember someone yelling my name, but their voice felt far away, like it was underwater. Then my knees gave out. I hit the floor, cold wood against my skin. I could feel people rushing toward me, hands trying to help, voices rising in panic. But it was all fading. Everything around me started to melt. The colors of the stained glass above the altar twisted like liquid. My hearing dimmed. My sight dimmed. Then, everything just stopped. No breath, no heartbeat, no pain. And yet I wasn't afraid. There was no chaos, no fear, just silence, not the kind you hear with your ears, the kind that fills everything. And in that silence, I felt free, like I had slipped out of my body and into something endless. I wasn't falling. I wasn't rising. I was simply floating. That's when I knew I had crossed over. Somewhere in that deep, endless quiet, a voice called out. Not just any voice, my grandmother's, soft, familiar, steady as ever. It's not your time yet, baby, but you need to pay attention now. Then, light, not the blinding kind you'd expect. This was different, gentle, warm, like the first rays of sun after months of darkness. It wrapped around me, not like a spotlight, but like a memory, something I had always known, but somehow forgotten. That light began to shift, to breathe. And suddenly I knew. I wasn't alone. I wasn't being yanked or pushed. I was being drawn. Like something beautiful was calling me home. And for the first time in my life, I felt completely whole. No fear, no pain, just peace. A kind of peace I didn't think was possible. As the light grew brighter, I could feel myself slipping further from who I was. I wasn't Nia Thomas anymore. not in the way the world had known me. I wasn't the woman weighed down by questions and expectations. I was simply a soul, alive in a way I'd never been before. I looked down and saw my body still on the floor of the church. People circled around it, some crying, some praying. Pastor Davis held my hand, his lips moving fast in silent pleading. But none of it pulled me back. I felt no panic, just compassion, like watching a dream you know you've already outgrown. Then, beneath the light, I felt a vibration, a sound, but deeper. A hum that moved through me. Music, maybe, or something older than music. It filled me up. And again, my grandmother's voice came through. "Keep going, baby. He's waiting for you." Then everything changed. The light around me began to shift, parting like mist, revealing something more. In the distance, a doorway opened, wide, radiant. It wasn't like anything from this world. Imagine the clearest sky you've ever seen, stretched beyond time, framed by something not of this earth. And there, standing in the center of it all, was a figure, tall, cloaked in white, his face hidden behind a brilliance too holy to stare into. But I didn't need to see. I knew who it was. I felt myself moving toward him, not walking, just being drawn closer, like my soul remembered the way. With each moment, the light grew more intense, but it didn't blind me. It healed me. My chest filled with warmth, so pure, I thought it might burst. And then he spoke. Just one word. My name. Nia. That sound, my name in his voice, it held more love than I thought a heart could hold. It cracked me open. I wept, though I had no tears, no body. Just a soul overwhelmed by a love that had no beginning, no end. As he stepped forward, his face came into view, and everything in me stilled. It was Jesus. His eyes held galaxies, depth beyond depth. His skin radiated golden light from within, not like fire, but like truth. His smile, calm, steady, felt like coming home after a long, hard journey. "Nia," he said again, "come closer." And I did. I didn't walk. I just moved. The moment his hand reached for mine, something inside me shattered in the best way. In that single touch, I understood everything. Every loss, every joy, every fear. My entire life made sense. He knew me, every part of me. Before I could speak, everything changed. The warmth disappeared. The light faded. And suddenly, I wasn't floating anymore. I was standing in something I can only describe as the beginning of time. Not darkness. No, this was deeper. This was the absence of light. Like I'd stepped into a place untouched by creation. My hand was still in his. I didn't feel fear, only awe. "This," he said, "is where your story begins." Out of the shadows, shapes began to rise, faces, thousands of them. Men, women and children, each one with skin like mine, eyes burning with wisdom and sorrow and love. At first, there was silence. Then came a low hum, a song. It started as a whisper, then swelled into a chorus that wrapped around me like a blanket. Every note carried power. "These are your people," Jesus said. "Your ancestors, the ones whose prayers built bridges, broke chains, and held the world together when no one else saw them." I could feel it. Waves of energy pouring from them. Their pain, their courage, their unshakable faith. They stood on broken chains, and I watched as the metal links shattered beneath them, glowing, dissolving into light. "They endured," he said, "so others could rise." Their strength became spiritual armor. For you. For generations. I was trembling. Tears spilled from my soul. "Why are you showing me this?" I whispered. But deep down I already knew, because the truth of who we are, of who I am, was never lost. It was always there, waiting to be remembered. Because their gift is still alive in you. That's what Jesus told me. And as soon as the words left his lips, the darkness around us lifted. Suddenly I was moving, faster than before. It wasn't walking, it wasn't flying. It was like being carried by a current of sound and energy. Flashes of light shot past me, each one pulsing with meaning, with emotion. I could feel the vibration of every sound around me, not just in my ears, but in my bones, my soul. Then I saw it. A massive web stretched across what looked like the sky, but it wasn't sky. It was something beyond space, beyond time. Lines of light, crisscrossed in every direction, connecting every soul, every person. It was like seeing the nervous system of humanity itself, and at the center of it all was a core, a radiant, living light, alive, breathing, holding it all together. Jesus stood beside me and spoke again. This is the connection of human consciousness. I stared at it, overwhelmed, and then something caught my eye. The glow. The threads near certain people, black people, were glowing brightest, brighter than I had ever seen. Their faith, he said, their prayers, their endurance, that's what fuels the light. They have carried a spiritual weight the world refused to see. And still, they chose to love, to believe, to pray. I felt my chest tighten. My eyes stung. Why? I whispered. Why have they carried so much? His answer changed me. Because they were chosen to be the teachers, to reveal how to see through the dark, to show the world what strength really looks like. And in that moment, I understood. Our pain had never been wasted. It had become a legacy, woven into a spiritual foundation too strong to be broken. A gift passed down through generations, a light the world couldn't dim. Go back, Jesus said. Tell them. I was still standing in that vast expanse when the tunnel appeared. At first it was just a sliver of golden light stretching ahead of me. Then it widened, becoming a swirling vortex that spun gently, humming with energy. But it wasn't just light. It was alive, breathing. Every pulse carried something ancient and holy. I could feel it calling to me. Go, he said again, his hand firm on my shoulder. I hesitated. Where does it lead? He smiled. To the truth. The tunnel pulsed, each wave of light hitting me like a heartbeat. I wasn't moving, but I was being drawn forward, my spirit floating, weightless. The moment I crossed into the tunnel, everything changed again. The sound deepened. The hum became music. Not like anything on earth. This was something more. It was like every soul that had ever lived was singing together in perfect unity. A harmony that vibrated through the very fabric of existence. The light wrapped around me. And within it, wisdom, knowledge. Layers of truth I couldn't explain, but I knew. Colors I had no words for, twisted through the air, flowing and separating like living rivers of meaning. Each thread seemed to whisper something ancient. My mind tried to keep up, but it couldn't. It didn't need to, because my spirit understood. And in that moment, I realized I wasn't being taken away. I was being sent back, with a message that could no longer wait. As I moved deeper into the tunnel of light, I began to feel others near me, not in the physical sense, but in spirit. I couldn't see them clearly, but I knew they were there. Souls, moving beside me, some ahead, some following behind. We weren't walking, we were being drawn, gently pulled toward something vast, something divine. And I understood, without needing to be told. We were all on the same journey, returning to the source of who we truly are. Then I heard them. Voices. Deep, resonant, layered like a song older than time itself. They didn't speak any language I had ever learned, but I understood every word. Not with my mind, but with my soul. The sound vibrated through me like a memory waking up inside my bones. It was the voice of creation, of origin. I asked, "Who are they?" Jesus answered, not from beside me, but from within me. His voice echoed with perfect clarity. "They are the ancestors, the ones who walked before you, and they've been waiting." Suddenly, the tunnel opened wide, and I found myself standing in a space so immense it took my breath away. Above me was a sky of stars, but not still stars. They moved, danced, flowed in patterns I somehow recognized, as if I'd seen them before in dreams I forgot upon waking. Out of that living sky, figures began to form, tall, powerful, glowing. They had dark skin that shimmered like polished stone, and eyes lit from within, as if holding galaxies. Their faces were both unfamiliar and deeply known. I didn't know how, but I knew them. Then one stepped forward. A woman wrapped in a robe of deep blue, her long braids trailing behind her like a river of history. Her eyes were golden, calm, and full of knowing. "Welcome home," she said. Tears welled up in my eyes before I could even respond. "I know you," I whispered. "You've always known us," she said, her voice soft but certain. "We've been with you since the beginning." One by one, the others stepped closer. They didn't speak, but I felt their energy surrounding me. Warmth, power, protection. It didn't feel like a reunion. It felt like a remembering. "You come from a lineage of strength," the woman told me. "The gifts you carry didn't begin with you. They've been passed down, through blood, through spirit. That's why your heart is so open. That's why your prayers hold power. You were born to feel deeply, to see clearly, to walk with fire in your soul." And standing there in that place beyond time, I didn't just believe her. I knew it was true. For the first time in my life, I felt fully seen, fully understood, fully home. As the light around me pulsed with life, I heard his voice again, clear, warm, steady. "Now you will understand why." The ancestors stepped back, their presence still near but now quieter, like a steady heartbeat in the background. And then he returned. Jesus. He stood before me again, brighter than before. The golden light pouring from him wasn't just light. It was truth, love, knowing. I couldn't look away. His eyes locked on mine, and in them I saw something that stilled me to my core. Complete, unconditional understanding. "Niara," he said, my name wrapped in calm authority. "Do you know why you were brought here?" I swallowed. My voice caught in my throat. "Because of my people." "Yes," he said, stepping forward, "but there's more. You need to understand who you are." I could barely breathe. "Then tell me." He reached out his hand. Without hesitation, I placed mine in his, and instantly the world shifted. Images exploded in my mind. I saw fields, sun-scorched, endless. Men and women bent over in labor, sweat dripping from their brows, their hands raw and calloused. Yet in the midst of it all, they sang. Their voices rose in unison, harmonies full of hope. Even as the world tried to crush them, their spirits stayed whole. "You carry their strength," Jesus said. Then the images changed. Black churches, hands lifted, faces stained with tears. Gospel choirs lifting up the roof with voices that made the very air vibrate. Families gathered around small kitchen tables, heads bowed in fierce, unshakable prayer. "This is your inheritance," he said. "The world tried to take everything from them, but it could not steal their connection to God. My heart broke open. I saw protests, resistance, bloodshed. I saw hatred, violence, and injustice. But through it all, there was something shining, a golden thread, glowing, weaving itself through every generation. It was faith. It was strength. It was power. "This is why your people are spiritually gifted," he said, "because their connection to heaven was not born from ease. It was forged in fire." Tears streamed down my face. I could feel it now, the same power in my grandmother's quiet prayers, in the church songs of my childhood. It was in the rhythm of my people's footsteps, in the stories passed down like sacred scripture. "You've always felt it, haven't you?" Jesus asked. "The sensitivity, the knowing it's part of your blood." I nodded. "But why me?" His eyes softened. "Because you were chosen. You are meant to tell them." He lifted his hand, and a wave of light swept through the air around us. I saw black men and women praying. Some were silent, others cried out with power. Their prayers didn't just vanish, they radiated. Waves of energy pulsed outward from their mouths and hearts, spilling light into the world. "Their prayers," Jesus said, "are not just heard. They reshape reality. They build bridges. They protect. They heal." And I saw it. A network of spiritual power, a web of golden light crisscrossing the earth. Prayer after prayer weaving into one another, forming a shield against the darkness trying to press in. "They are spiritually gifted," he said again, "because their connection to the divine is embedded into their being. It lives in their very cells." He turned to me. "Do you see?" "Yes," I whispered. Jesus nodded. "Faith, prayer, endurance, that is your people's gift, and it has always been the reason they know how to survive, even when everything is stacked against them." He stepped closer, his voice more serious now. "But the world has tried to bury this gift, through fear, through oppression, through lies. And I saw it, centuries of attempted erasure, colonization, slavery, segregation, all of it aimed at one thing, breaking the divine connection black people carried. But it didn't work," Jesus said, "because faith can't be erased. God cannot be separated from what he created." I sobbed, not from pain, but from truth, from seeing it all laid bare. "You must wake them up," Jesus said. And then I wasn't standing beside him anymore. I was above the earth, suspended in light, looking down at the world. I saw it turning slowly, oceans and mountains moving in shadow and sun. But then, darkness. I could see it gathering in certain places, thick and cold. "What is that?" I asked. "The enemy," he said. "But look closer," and I did. Beneath the darkness, light, a steady pulse, like a drumbeat, a heartbeat, small but strong. "They are the prayers of your ancestors," Jesus said. I watched as souls bent in prayer, hands clasped, lips moving. And as they prayed, waves of light burst outward, pushing back the dark. Those prayers didn't vanish. They left imprints. And those imprints became foundations, the ground future generations would walk on. I saw myself as a child, kneeling beside my grandmother, her voice low, her hands weathered, but steady. As she prayed, the light from her words wrapped around me like armor. "That's why you've always felt protected," Jesus said. And I saw others, black children, black men and women, walking through storms of darkness, but never alone. Their feet walked on the foundation laid by prayers. The light beneath them was always there. "This," Jesus said, "is why the enemy fears them, because they were born connected to heaven." I gasped. The truth sat heavy in my chest. "You must wake them up," he said again. I looked below. The brightest, boldest threads of light were concentrated around black people. Their energy cut through darkness like blades. "Why is their light so strong?" I asked. Jesus turned to me, eyes full of fire and peace. "Because from the very beginning, they were created with heightened spiritual sensitivity." I didn't fully understand. "Why?" He raised his hand, and images swirled around us. The beginning of time. Tribes gathered around fire, their skin dark, their voices full of authority, not begging, not fearful, but connected, aligned. They weren't just surviving, he said. They were speaking directly to the divine. "They were the first," Jesus said. "The first to walk the earth, the first to speak to the Creator." Their connection to God wasn't taught. It was known. It was woven into their souls. My chest tightened. But why? Because they were created to be spiritual anchors. When the world would lose its way, their faith would hold the center. I saw it. Empires rising, falling, war, betrayal. And beneath it all, black communities still praying, still singing, still listening to God. But if they're so connected, I asked, why have they suffered the most? Jesus' expression shifted. A deep sadness crossed his face. Because the enemy knew their power, and he's been trying to sever that connection since the beginning. Chains, whips, silence, stereotypes, systems, lies. I saw it all. He tried to destroy the line to God, Jesus said, but faith cannot be destroyed. I wept. I saw the strength. I saw the resilience. I saw the unbreakable bond. That's why black people have always known things before they happened, he said. Why they can feel energy shift in a room. Why they dream dreams that speak truth. Why they move with wisdom even when they can't explain it. He looked into my eyes. It's in you too. And I knew. I had always felt it. I thought I was just sensitive, just emotional. But now I understood. I was in tune. When you pray, Jesus said, you tap into centuries of power. You speak with the voice of 1,000 souls who came before you. Then the earth faded, and I saw something even greater. The beginning, light ripping through darkness, stars forming, planets spinning, the universe breathing. This is where it began, Jesus whispered. I saw earth take shape, land rising, water flowing, and then I saw people, the first people. Their skin was dark, their eyes held light. They walked with knowledge already in them. They spoke to God like a friend. They were not just made, Jesus said. They were formed from the breath of God. Tears poured down my face. You mean? Yes, he said. They carry the blueprint of creation itself. They touched the earth and it responded. Plants thrived in their care. Animals followed them with trust. They were created not to dominate, but to steward, to guard the sacred balance. But darkness crept in, he said. Greed, division, violence. The world turned away. But the original gift remained, in those closest to the beginning. Black people, I whispered. He nodded. Because they were first, they remain closest to the original design. They feel the earth's pain more. They sense spiritual shifts more quickly. They carry the memory of creation. I saw it. Modern churches filled with praise, gospel music lifting hearts, tears falling in worship. And I knew the world had forgotten who they were. But the time had come to remember, and I had been sent back to remind them. They are not separate from creation, Jesus said. They are part of it, and that connection gives them authority. He stepped closer, his presence wrapping around me like warmth I hadn't known I needed. This connection, he said, is what makes your people's prayers different. In that moment I saw it. waves of light, radiant and alive, moving through space like music in motion. Figures appeared, people deep in prayer, some standing, some kneeling, some whispering with closed eyes and trembling hands. And as they prayed, something incredible happened. From their mouths, from their hearts, flowed threads of glowing energy, blue and gold, rich and vibrant. These threads didn't just vanish into the air, they connected to each other, to the earth, to the heavens. A network of divine power. When black people pray, Jesus said, they are not simply asking. He turned to me, his eyes glowing with truth. They are commanding. That word hit me like a thunderclap. Their connection to creation gives their words weight, he said. It gives their voices power in the spiritual realm. I saw an elderly woman, alone in a dimly lit apartment. Her hands were clasped tight, her brow furrowed in fierce focus. Her lips moved without sound, but her prayer flew from her like a beam of light, cutting through shadow, clearing darkness like fire through fog. She isn't just hoping, Jesus said. She is shifting reality. The image shifted again. Now a young man stood alone in the middle of a storm. Rain lashed around him, thunder cracked above, but his hands were raised high. His prayer formed a shield, an actual barrier, pushing back the chaos with invisible force. This, Jesus said, is what spiritual authority looks like. When they pray, the universe listens. Tears filled my eyes. My heart felt like it might burst. But still the question burned in my chest. Then why? I asked, my voice shaking. Why is life still so hard for them? Jesus looked at me. His expression was calm, but fierce. Because the enemy knows their power, he said, and he fears what would happen if they fully awakened to it. So he distracts them, discourages them, divides them. Because if they ever come together, fully aligned with their divine purpose, they will be unstoppable. My breath caught in my throat. I could feel the weight of what he was saying. But with that power, Jesus continued, comes responsibility. A new vision unfolded before me. I saw black men and women standing in circles, hands linked, heads bowed, light glowing outward from their unity. That light stretched out and formed walls of protection around entire cities, entire communities. They are called to lead, Jesus said, but not through politics or force, through prayer, through alignment, through unwavering connection to heaven. Then I saw her, a young woman standing at a podium. Her voice was steady, her presence undeniable. As she spoke, waves of light rolled from her words and swept over the crowd. Faces lifted, eyes filled with hope. People remembered who they were. They must teach others, Jesus said. Teach them how to align with the spiritual realm, how to move in faith, how to access the power of divine connection. But not all accepted the call. Some turned their backs, chasing fame, wealth, and division. I saw their light dim. Shadows clung to them, heavy and hollow. They will be tempted, Jesus said quietly. The enemy will offer false power. But those who remain aligned, those who stay rooted in heaven, will carry the authority to transform nations. He turned to me again. You must tell them. My heart thundered in my chest. But will they listen? Jesus smiled softly. Yes, because the truth is already written in their souls. Then everything shifted. The light I had seen moving through black communities, once vibrant and free-flowing, began to flicker. Dimensoi's threads that had danced through the air, now tangled and frayed. At the edges, shadows crept in, twisting the energy, making it heavy. "What's happening?" I whispered. Jesus didn't flinch, but his voice carried a new gravity. "This," he said, "is what happens when the connection is attacked." And suddenly I saw it. A ship slicing through a dark ocean, the air thick with salt and sorrow. Chains rattled in the silence, cries echoed into the mist, voices trembling, confused, terrified. And I realized this wasn't just a vision of what was. It was a warning of what still is. What I saw next broke something open inside me. Black men and women chained together, their bodies bruised and battered, their eyes vacant from all they had endured. The weight of centuries bore down on their shoulders. But even in the middle of that suffering, I saw it. Faint threads of light, fragile but alive, stretching from heart to heart, soul to soul. Their prayers were still there, flickering, fighting to stay lit beneath the crushing force of oppression. "They tried to erase your connection," Jesus said, standing beside me. "Through slavery, colonization, and violence, they knew your people's strength was never just physical. It was spiritual." My chest ached. I saw entire families being stripped of their languages, their names, their customs. I saw children ripped from their parents, forbidden to speak their truth or call on God in their own sacred way. Their spiritual identity was under attack. They broke their bodies, Jesus said, but they could not break their souls. And then I witnessed something holy. Under moonlit skies, in hidden clearings, and behind closed doors, enslaved men and women gathered in silence, humming, whispering ancient songs into the night. Their voices were low, but their prayers were fierce, streams of light rising into the heavens, piercing even the thickest darkness. Their voices had been stolen, but their spirits still called to God. They knew who they were, Jesus whispered, even when the world told them they were nothing. The vision shifted again. I saw the long shadow of systemic oppression creeping across generations. Segregation, poverty, mass incarceration. I saw how the brilliance of black identity had been manipulated, twisted, buried under layers of pain. And I realized this wasn't random. It was by design. "The enemy knew," Jesus said, "that if your people ever remembered who they are, nothing could stop them. So he turned your gifts into burdens. He made the sacred feel shameful. He made power look like a threat." I saw the damage. Families splintered, communities struggling under violence and addiction. The divine light was still there, but buried, dimmed by trauma. I saw young men chasing validation through money and status, searching for something they couldn't name. I saw young women looking into mirrors, unsure of their worth. "They've been told they're powerless," Jesus said, "taught to believe they're cursed. But the truth?" He looked at me. "They are chosen." Tears filled my eyes. "But how do they get it back?" Jesus' voice softened. "Through remembrance. They must remember who they are. The truth was planted in them before time began. The gift has never left. It was only buried beneath lies." A single spark appeared in the vision. A thread of light, weak at first, then growing, brighter, stronger. "When they remember," Jesus said, "the power returns." I watched a young woman, alone in her bedroom, collapse to her knees, overwhelmed by life. Her hands clutched her chest as a cry rose from her soul. Not rehearsed, not polished, but raw and real. A prayer exploded from her lips, and in that moment light surrounded her. Golden threads shot into the air, linking with others far away. "This," Jesus said, "is the beginning of restoration." I saw more. Black men and women awakening in living rooms, in hospitals, in prisons. Their prayers lit up like fire. I saw mothers praying over their children, grandmothers anointing doorposts with oil. Their prayers didn't just comfort, they connected. Across cities, across continents, their faith formed a web of light. They must return to true prayer, Jesus said, not fearful whispers but bold declarations, like their ancestors, prayers that shift atmospheres. Then I saw a young boy on a street corner, his head bowed, hands clasped. One simple prayer, and it sent a shockwave through his entire neighborhood. The shadows lifted, revealing beams of gold running beneath the pavement. They must reclaim their authority, Jesus said. The authority to speak peace into chaos, to heal what's been broken, to command the spirit realm to move. How? I asked. Jesus looked at me with a knowing smile, through remembrance and faith. Then came a vision of revival. People gathering in fields, on sidewalks, in sanctuaries, their hands raised, their voices firm. They weren't begging, they were declaring, not pleading for permission, but claiming what already belonged to them. They must speak from knowing, Jesus said, not from hoping. When they do, their prayers won't just be heard, they'll create. I saw churches overflowing with praise, choirs of black voices rising like thunder, tears running down faces as their music became visible energy, pushing into the skies, shifting something in the unseen. They must reject the lies, Jesus said, the lie that they are powerless, the lie that they are cursed, the lie that they are separate from God. The light around every praying figure began to grow, rising with strength. The darkness that once surrounded them now trembled, retreating, repelled by their unity, their boldness, their faith. Faith, Jesus said, is the key. He looked me in the eye, his voice steady and fierce. Faith activates the gift. And I finally understood. Our power was never lost. It was simply waiting to be remembered. What I saw changed everything. I didn't come back from that encounter with theories or empty inspiration. I came back with truth, etched into my spirit by the hand of Jesus himself. And now I can't stay silent. If you're watching this, it's not by accident. You were meant to hear this. You were meant to remember the fire that's been flickering inside you. It's time to fan it into flame. You are not forgotten. You are not cursed. You are chosen, a vessel of power, of purpose, of divine light. And if this message stirred something in you, if you felt that chill, that pull in your chest, that's your spirit waking up. So don't scroll past this moment. Comment below and tell me what you felt while watching. Like this video if your soul needed this reminder. Share it with someone who's been carrying quiet pain or hidden power. And subscribe to this channel right now, because I'm not done. God isn't done. There's more he wants to say, and you need to hear it. Every week I'll be sharing the revelations he gave me, real, raw, straight from heaven. And if you're ready to step into your authority, if you're ready to reclaim the spiritual gift buried inside you, this is where your journey begins. Let this be your confirmation. Let this be your awakening. And may God bless every single person who hears this and answers the call. Because the time to rise is now.